Hey everybody, welcome back to another day at the Red Barn. In this episode, we are going to make the final piece for the suspension console cover. And then we're going to make a set of stamping dies, and we're going to fire up the hydraulic press and add some serious style points to that part. All right, now another fun little project. With the engine out of the car, I figured it's going to be much easier to do our plate for the console. So I just made a little cardboard template of the cover that I want to have here. And again, it's missing the last little leg parts, but that's okay because I've accounted for that in what you're about to see. But I want to press an indentation into this panel. This is just a straight triangular shape to give me some side dimensions. It'll have a much more attractive radius. But I want to kind of match it to this so that, you know, it's maybe looks like if the factory wanted to do something like this, they likely would have had that recessed area in this piece as well. But anyway, I now know I've got a little template model that I can measure up and get into CAD. But what I want to do this time is show you the process of how I make stamping dies, and we'll go through the process of making this panel, stamping it, getting it bent, and affixed into the car. So here we go. Okay, so first step is we got to get everything drawn up in CAD. So what I've done is I took some careful measurements of the cardboard piece and went ahead and drew it all up. Now, this black shape is the piece that I'll cut to make for the car. This set of blue shapes is the stamping panel set. So it's a little complex to try to explain. So what I'm going to do instead is just make the stamping dies, and then as I start to do the process of stamping the panel that I cut, I'll explain how the die set works and all that good stuff. All right, here we go. Okay, we're back at the fixturing table, and here's how this stamping die set works. These are my terms. Maybe they'll make sense to you too, but I call this the male backer. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get it positioned, located in a place where I can secure it. So this is the male backer, and this is the male of the recessed panel of that main section, the triangular shape that I want to stamp. And the holes that I've cut in the male backer and in the male pieces of the die are alignment holes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to end up getting these pieces aligned on here. But the way this works here for a second is I put the female die over the male die, and these are cut, designed and cut to the exact same outer dimension. And so you'll notice that even this piece, right? This piece is aligned with this edge. So it just makes it easier to find, you know, to make sure these are positioned exactly within with each other. And then these pieces are also cut to the exact same shape as the panel that I'm going to stamp. So when I go to align everything, you know, because the panel is going to be in here and I won't be able to see where everything is, all I need to do is make sure that the outer edges of everything are aligned, and we'll be good to go. Now, what I'm doing here is there is a bit of eyeballing that goes on. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to align the holes, but I'm also going to verify visually that I like the reveal of the stamp. And when I do, I'm going to weld these male parts together. And again, not that you'll ever see it, but style points are style points. I'll take them where I get them. All right, so that looks pretty good to me. So now I'm just going to tack the male piece, the male stamping component, to the backer. All right, so the male component of the die is done. Female component of the die is done. And so now I've plasma cut the blank, and if you haven't figured this out yet, this is going to be a recess just for style points, but this is going to end up creating a recess down over the fasteners, so then I can make a recessed panel with a fastener here, and I'll have a removable panel. So instead of drilling a hole back in the corner, I'll be able to have something that's a completely finished look. And again, more style points, you know me. So anyway, the way this works is, this is the exact same size as the backers, both the female and male components of the die set. So now all I need to do is put this together, and you can see, well, let me show you this way. You can see how this is going to work. There's the reveal from the female side, and so this male part's just going to push this material down into the female component. So when I put this all together, it's male die, piece, female die, and now it's a simple matter of aligning these pieces. And what I do, align everything in the die with the piece in it, and then clamp this assembly together. And yes, it's lifting because that's what it's going to try to do, because it's basically trying to stamp it right now. But don't worry about that. Trust me, I'm a professional. So basically, all I'm trying to do is stamp it into alignment in a couple places. Because what happens is, once I get part of the die to stamp, it sort of locks itself together in a sandwich. And these are not quite as important as they were. So this is ready to go into the press. Let me get the press set up. Okay, here we are at the press, and you'll notice that all I did was take the hydraulic lines from the bender, and they are quick disconnect dry brakes to this particular ram. And now what I've done is I've learned over the years, sounds like I do this for a living. What I've learned is that using a couple pieces of aluminum, which is much smoother, I end up not marring the dies as much now. And as you can see, it's not all going to fit in there at one time. So what I've figured out that I can do, and it works just fine, is to walk this through the machine. And so here we go. Now normally I wouldn't stop, but I want to just show you, you can see that it's pressed down in there now. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause for a second, I'm going to reclamp it here so I can flip this all around and take it through the rest of the way. So I'm going to go ahead and come at it at a couple different angles now, making sure that I'm not squishing stuff that I don't want to squish. And again, pausing to make a point. I don't know if you can see this, but I can see that the reveal here, or this curve, isn't as sharp right in this area as it is everywhere else. And that tells me that that little spot right in there needs to get stamped again, or stamped more. So let's do that. All right, I think it looks pretty good from here. Now the other thing I've learned is I can take this apart, and because it's kind of like a puzzle, it'll go back together. So if I miss a spot or decide I want to try, pressing a little bit more in one area or another, I can. But here's the big reveal. And there is our stamped panel. One for the structure that matches the Porsche component, and one for a little inset. Now this is not as nice as I hoped it might turn out. I might be able to dress that a teeny bit, but that's a big ask to get that much movement out of the material. But here's a good example. I am going to put that back in there, and I'm going to give that one spot another go. And you can see this piece, it just locks back down on there because that's really where it wants to be. put this back together. And in this particular case, I don't even need to put the clamps on it because it really can only go back together in one way. And I'm just going to hit that part again. Without aluminum. Okay, it's a little better. Not perfect, but I think it's going to be okay. And then once I make the piece that sets in there, you won't really even see that. And again, if it turns out that I need to come up with a different design, it's quick enough for me to make another stamping die set that I'm actually not opposed to doing that. So anyway, there we go. One panel. Let's see how it fits. It's going to look something like this, but you can see, obviously it rocks all over the place. So a quick way to work out a multi-plane situation like this is where it contacts here and where it contacts here. If I just do a bend line right up between those points, which is how I designed this, which is that angle right there, and I bend that far enough so that this moves to there, I'll have a nice fitting piece for my console box cover. So I'm going to go bend this now. Okay, so here it is in the car. Now, I skipped over a few things. I think it's, to be fair, I like to prove out that it's going to work before I waste too much time trying to film it. And what I ended up having to do was run this bend through the bead roller, and I'll show you that on the next one, assuming I have to do it the same way, because it is problematic with these stampings, getting in the way of the flat planes of the brake. But anyway, so this is the goal, right? So you got the Porsche look, and you got the At the Red Barn look. So I'm happy with how that turned out. And then this little inset, as I said, I'll now make a piece. I'll add like a riv nut there, and I'll just have a nice little cover plate that tidies this all up. I'll have one fastener there. This will all be seam welded. This edge still has to get tipped over and welded down to the top of the longitudinal. But I'm really happy with that. I think that looks nicely finished. And speaking of finish, I just hit this with a DA with 80 grit, and that helps to show any of the slight imperfections in it, and it also gives me a chance to sand many of them away. But by the time this gets primer put on it and a finished color, it's gonna look really nice. But super happy with that, and now I just got to do the exact same thing, mirror image on the other side. How hard can that be? And there it is. One console cover with a stamped recess and a recessed cover plate to protect the fastener area from getting crap in it. But there you go. And then now you can see, there it is all kind of put together and very cool looking. Again, with the headers and stuff, you'll have to look for these spots, but again, style points are in there and we'll all know they're there. I'm really happy with that. It looks great. Now to prime the inside of it and get it tacked in place. I still have to work out how I'm going to bring it around the corner. I might end up making a separate little piece right here, and try to blend that all in. So still got to work that out, but we will work it out. More to come.